Welcome back to Joyce Summer Boxing. Last year, a lot of people, myself included, made a big fuss of Joseph Parker because he'd been on a 4 or 5 fight winning run. 4 fights, I think, last year, and he won them all. And he just it looked like, a fighter reborn because he'd come off that bad knockout to Joe Joyce. Meanwhile, Joyce had lost twice to Zhilei Zhang, and so you'd had this situation where the guy who was pretty much written off as being any kind of elite heavyweight was suddenly top of the world or getting damn close to it, whereas the guy who'd knocked him out and knocked him out badly, had slid down the pipe, so to speak. But let's not forget another heavyweight who's had a little bit of a resurrection, and that, of course, is Daniel Dubois. Because Daniel Dubois, to say he had mental demons, to say the pressure was on him, and to say that he'd soaked up an awful lot of abuse is an understatement. Now, you probably know you know what I'm getting at, the fact that against, again, Joe Joyce, he essentially quit. He had a busted eye socket. I don't come down hard on someone quitting if they've got a busted eye socket because I think it's a potential fight. It's certainly a career-ending injury, and you can even lose your sight, which is not a good thing. In case it needs stating, these are human beings. They're not just there for our entertainment. Although, my God, they do entertain us. But then later on, in fact, last year, he quit again, and he quit against Alexander Usyk, and this was, in a sense, more disturbing. Because you could see him mentally unravel, run out of ideas, run out of fight. And he actually got knocked out with a jab and kind of took the count. Now, at that point, I think psychologically, he was probably at a very, very low point. I mean, I think that goes without saying, but he was certainly written off by people who were saying, look, you quit once, you'll quit again. If you quit again, you'll quit a third time, and so on and so forth. The kid just hasn't got the inner metal to be an elite fighter, or to, as Teddy Atlas always puts it, to behave like a fighter. Well, my God, he's proved us wrong. He proved us wrong against Jarrell Miller, who was undefeated, and whatever you think of Miller, and I don't have a high opinion of him, he's a massive, big, fat lump, 333 pounds or whatever he was. He gave Daniel some heat in the middle rounds from about the 4th, 5th, 6th round. He was giving Daniel some serious work. And Daniel worked through it, which I've got to be honest, did surprise me a little bit. And eventually stopped Miller in the 12th round. Ended up beating up Miller as well as beating him and stopping him. So a lot of people said, well, okay, that's a good win. Yeah, he's partially answered the questions. He's partially redeemed himself. But let's not forget exactly what Miller is. An extremely big but somewhat limited, serial drugs cheat. Okay, well done, Daniel, but at the same time, let's not get carried away. That's a fair comment. So what does he do? He says, all right, I'll fight the IBF mandatory contender. I'll put it all on the line again against another undefeated guy, a guy who you're all saying is, the next generation of, or possibly the next heavyweight champ, or whatever you want to phrase it. For years, Hrgović has been classed as being, a sort of, almost like a king in waiting. I'll take him on. Yeah, I'll take him on. No problem. And he gets paid well for doing it. He goes over to Riyadh again, and Hrgović, of course, he's getting a big fat paycheck. He thinks, yeah, this kid's quit twice. I'm older, I'm more of a man than he is mentally and physically. Yeah, I'll take him. And we saw what happened last night. Again, Dubois didn't just beat Hrgović, he beat him up. And the cuts, which were caused by punches, but not head. The head might have gone in and made the cuts worse, I don't know. But the referee certainly said that the cuts, which were severe on Hrgović, were caused by punches. Now, Dubois didn't actually fight a particularly intelligent fight against Hrgović. He came out and left himself wide open for the right cross, which pinged off Dubois' jaw on several occasions. I mean, 4 or 5, maybe even half a dozen times. Hrgović was landing with that right hand. And yet, Dubois didn't go anywhere. He actually soaked it up. And to some extent, that must have, at least partially broken Hrgovic's heart, or at least made him think, oh my God, this is going to be a lot tougher than I thought it was. Because before the fight, Hrgović said that he was asked, will this be your toughest fight? And he went, nah. Well, not only was it his toughest fight, it gave him a stoppage loss, the first loss of his career. And I suppose, in a sense, it's probably a little unfair to have doubted Dubois' guts. Because, yes, you can quit when you get lost in the ring and you don't know, you feel you've run out of ideas and your heart leaves you. But don't forget, against Kevin Lerena, Dubois suffered a very bad knee injury. Was on the floor 3 times. 2 of them basically took a knee in the first round. And then he came back to stop Lerena. And you can say, well, Lerena's just a cruiserweight. Yeah, but the injury was severe. And Dubois didn't quit. He carried on through it. So with the benefit of hindsight, you could say, well, actually, Dubois did show a little bit of guts in the past. It's not so much a lack of heart. It's perhaps more a case of getting Dubois' psyche into the place where he can believe in himself fully, where he can not panic, where he can ride out a storm. And that's really down to experience, this old thing that we always talk about. And Dubois, don't forget, he's been around for many years. He's still only 26. He's young for a heavyweight. So I would say, just as with Joseph Parker, if ever there's an example of a fighter to whom defeat need not define you, especially a young fighter like Dubois, these are the guys that are perfect proof of that. Just because you lose a fight when you're a young man, I mean, Amo Williams lost yesterday. Ray Ford picked up his first defeat as well. Does that mean they're bad fighters? Does that mean they can't go on to have good careers, win world titles? No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. You look at your mistakes. That's how you learn. None of us start off good. We're all bad to start with. And then we have to work our way into a certain type of skill. We have to become familiar with it, do it as a second nature sort of thing. It's like a kid taking its first steps. It falls on its bum sometimes, gets up, tries to walk, waddles all over the place, zigzags all over the place, bumps into the table, starts crying, gets up, tries it again. That's what you do. That's life in anything. And Daniel Dubois has proven that defeats need not matter. Look at what Canelo did since being beaten by Floyd Mayweather, and he was comprehensively beaten by Mayweather. And there's plenty of other examples. Henry Armstrong lost his first fight via first round knockout, I think it was. Sometimes this happened. Bernard Hopkins lost his first fight, I think, up at light heavyweight, lost a decision, went on to become undisputed middleweight champ, light heavyweight champ, and so on. I get so irritated when people say, well, he lost a fight, he must be crap. Now, of course, if you're old, if it's a case of like being like Wilder, who's pushing 39, okay, I think, sometimes you can say, well, maybe they're just getting on a bit, maybe. Although even the older fighters usually have one great last performance in them. But when they're younger fighters and they lose, to another undefeated fighter or to another world-class fighter, no, it doesn't actually matter that much. It's a step back, but you regroup and you go again, Just like Eddie Hearn is going to have to regroup after that humiliation where Queensberry won every fight, 10 points to 0, 5 fights to 0. What, you think Eddie Hearn's going to quit? No, he's probably, as that was happening, he was thinking, okay, we need a rematch. What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? That's the winner's mentality, So what do you think? Comments below as usual. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. It takes a second. Don't cost you anything. Hit the subscribe button and that little like button. Hit that as well. And yeah, I'll read your comments. Thanks a lot. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.